What is going on with the Tigers? Is it finally time to panic? Is it all over? Or is there still time to right the ship? Do they have to go all in at the trade deadline? Is there enough already in the clubhouse to get it done? All that and more with this fan who always believes this is the Motor City Sports Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Motor City Sports Podcast, your home for talking all things Detroit sports. I am your host, Lee Mosierek, and as always, I want to thank everyone for joining me today as we talk about our Detroit sports. It's been a rough few days. I had plans to kind of dive into a few different topics today. I was thinking about talking about a little bit of Pistons, potential signees I've been seeing. I want to talk about the Lions, a little tussle at training camp this week and what happened there. Alex Anzalone spoke out about the contract. So a few things did happen there. I think I'm going to wait until the longer Monday episode to dive into some of that. I like to keep the Thursday episodes a little shorter. So I think we got enough with the Tigers to keep us busy today because it has been a rough couple of days for sure. So what we're going to do today is kind of recap the 4 games we've had since the last episode. And then I want to talk about the future, project forward a little bit. What's going on with this team? So what's going to happen with the trade deadline? What are we going to do with the guys already in the organization? And I'm probably going to freak out about some of the local sports talk hosts that are considered experts on the topic, that if they aren't being negative, they aren't breathing. So that's what we got to look forward to on today's episode. But before we get started, I need to remind everyone that, again, today's episode is brought to you by Pointe Spine Center, where they use non-surgical spinal decompression to treat patients suffering from chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, and sciatica caused by herniated discs, bulging discs, and degenerative disc disease. If you're in the Metro Detroit area and you're in need of pain relief, call at 313-332-0388 or go online at grossepointspinecenter.com. All right, let's dive into this. There is not really any way we can sugarcoat this anymore. I'm the eternal optimist. I'm always trying to stay positive, but even I look at what has happened in the last few days, actually the last week and a half, 2 weeks, most of July, in fact, and say, we got to figure something out with this Detroit Tigers team. This has turned into more than just a couple bad games. They've lost 9 of the last 10. They are not looking like the team they looked like when they were the first to 30, first to 40, first to 50, first to 60 wins. Looking real hard to become the first to 70 wins at the rate things are going. So let's break down each of the games a little bit here, kind of look at the week as a whole, and then I want to project forward once we get to that point. So going back to Sunday's game, the podcast that came out Monday morning was actually recorded Sunday afternoon, so it was before the Sunday night game. Going into that game, Tigers had lost the first 2 games after the All-Star break. They didn't look great before the All-Star break. But good news, we had Tarek Skubal on the mound as a stopper, going into Texas, trying to get out of there with a win. And Tarek did his job. Tigers get out of there with a 2-1 victory over the Rangers. Tarek threw 6 2/3 innings, only gave up 4 hits. Got penalized with an earned run, which I'll talk about that in a minute here. 11 strikeouts, no walks, brings the ERA back down to 2.19, getting it back closer to that 2.0. He had that little rocky start before the All-Star game, so it went up a bit. But we're getting it back down near 2 to put him in Triple Crown territory again. Also, that game, the bullpen gets credited with a great outing. Tyler Holton, 1 inning pitch, 2 strikeouts. Will Vest, an inning and a third, 2 strikeouts, 2 amazing, powerful strikeouts. His ERA is down to 2.23. Great all-around kind of pitching performance. The one thing I'll say about that is I was a starting pitcher in my much lower level pitching days and lower level of baseball. And so my mindset is always, when these starters get themselves into a bit of a jam, especially a starter as phenomenal as Tarek Skubal, I want to see those starters get the chance to get themselves out of the jam. Now, I know Tarek just had like a 10-pitch at bat. He was up to 105 pitches. AJ Hinch doesn't let these guys get above 100 pitches very often. So I'm not surprised that AJ went out there and got him and brought in Tyler Holton. What did surprise me is that AJ Hinch typically really does the righty-lefty matchups. Now, personally, I don't care about righty-lefty. I've said before the movie Moneyball, that's one of my favorite quotes of all time, is when Brad Pitt as Billy Bean says to Philip Seymour Hoffman as our Howe, I don't care about righty-lefty. That's how I feel. I feel like these guys are professional athletes. These left-handed batters should be able to hit left-handed pitching, and these right-handed batters should be able to hit right-handed pitching. I don't understand how still at that level it becomes such an issue. And I'm not discrediting the players. I'm saying if they were given the opportunity, they're pros. I think they could figure it out. But AJ really plays the righty lefty matchup. So I was really surprised that he brought Holton in, a left-hander, for Tarek Skubal, a left-hander, to face a right-handed hitter with a runner on third. Again, I'd love to see Tarek get the opportunity to get out of that jam on his own. Unfortunately, Tyler Holton throws one in the dirt. Ball gets away. Runner comes in and scores. Now we got a tie ball game. That run gets credited to Tarek Skubal. Now he doesn't have the opportunity to get the win. And at the end of the day, does Tarek Skubal care about personal stats or team stats? I'm sure he would tell you that he just cares the Tigers got the win. But if he won't say it, I'll say it. I want him racking up as many wins as he can. I want his ERA as low as it can be. I want him getting as many strikeouts as he can because I want him getting another Cy Young. I don't want voter fatigue to be able to be a thing. I want it to be a no-doubter. He gets the Cy Young. Maybe he gets a Triple Crown again. Maybe he even gets MVP votes. He's not going to get the MVP. Maybe he gets the votes. So I just didn't love someone getting brought in. I don't think it's fair to Tyler Holton that he has to come and run around third base. Hey, don't screw this up. Don't let the runner in. And so he's trying to make his pitches. Ball gets away. Runner comes in. Tyler gets out of the rest of the jam. Now we got a tie game. So how'd the offense do? Well, they came back and won, so that's great. They get 9 hits, which the way the team had been hitting the 2 games before that, I'll take 9 hits. Gleyber Torres, great game, 3 for 4. Dylan Dingler, 2 for 4. Riley Green got a hit. Zach McKinstry had a base hit and an RBI. And Vierling comes up, gets a base hit, and the game-winning RBI. And I'll touch a little bit more on Matt Vierling in a minute. But it was good to see him getting in there. Hitting the ball hard, get another base hit. The team comes through, gets the win. So they get out of Texas with a 2-1 win. And I think, all right, that's just what we needed. We're going to get to Pittsburgh now. Pittsburgh's not great. Yeah, we're going to run into Paul Skeens, but Pittsburgh's not great. We should definitely get 2 wins. Maybe we get lucky and get the sweep. So we get out of there Sunday night, head to Pittsburgh. Monday night, we got Jack Flaherty on the mound against Paul Skeens. Jack's had kind of a weird year. I feel like, I know, numbers are numbers, right? His ERA's high. He doesn't have a lot of wins. He's got a losing record. But I've seen some outings where, yeah, he gives up 3, so only gets 5 innings, but puts the team in a position to win. He's racking up strikeouts. And so I thought, okay, we're gonna get the good Jack Flaherty. I've been saying that for weeks on the podcast, that we know there's an animal inside Jack Flaherty. We know there's a phenomenal pitcher inside of Jack Flaherty. I have no doubt that Jack Flaherty can get this done. And we go into that game against Pittsburgh with Skeens on the mound, and Skeens is just an animal, just shutting them down. Riley Green obviously really struggles against Paul Skeens. Struggled in the All-Star game, struck out a few times here on this game against the Pirates. Just kind of his kryptonite. And Jack had, a weird start to the game, gets a couple strikeouts, and then after you think he's going to figure it out, only gets 3 innings, 3 walks, 6 hits, 3 runs. They weren't hitting the ball hard, but it's always something, unfortunately, with Jack. And I want him to be a dominant number 2, number 3 starter for this pitching rotation come the playoffs. But it's just not hitting right now. After that game, his ERA is up to 4.77. So he gives up 3 runs, and in comes the bullpen. Bullpen does great. So what we keep hearing, is bullpen. We need bullpen help, need bullpen help, need bullpen help. Now, granted, you could argue these weren't high leverage situations. We're down 3-0. We're not up 4-3 in the 8th. Dietrich Enns comes in, gets 2 2/3 innings pitched, gives up 3 hits, 3 strikeouts, no runs, brings his ERA down below 4. Remember, he had that great outing his first game with the Tigers, then a terrible outing his second game. So now it's kind of like he's in this weird position of, is he going to be in the bullpen? Is he going to be like a 6th starter when we need a guy? But he did great. Chase Lee comes in, continues to kind of right the ship. 1 1/3 innings pitch, gets a strikeout. Everything else is clean, gets his ERA down a little more. And then Tommy Kahnle comes in. Again, not a high leverage situation, which I understand, but a clean inning. Gets an inning pitch, gets 2 strikeouts. That's what we want to see. Offense, anemic, 5 hits. No one got 2 hits. Torres gets a hit. Torque, Dingler, Parker, Vierling all get hits. The thing I want to point out about Matt Vierling, though, is as of this game, he had hits in all 4 games since the All-Star break. And I think we need to see that because we want to get Matt Vierling back. Want to get him back to normal, back to real solid and real healthy. And he hit a couple balls hard that game too, and he got the hit, but he was hitting the ball hard. He's been hitting the ball more solid, I feel like. So that could be a good sign as Parker Meadows continues to struggle a bit. It gives us some flexibility to have Matt Vierling, who maybe is starting to find it. But tough game. Again, losing to Paul Skeens, on one hand, you think that's nothing to be ashamed of. On the other hand, you think he's going to throw 5 or 6 ridiculous innings, Then the bullpen comes in, and that's when they usually lose the game, and the other team finds a way to win. And the Tigers just couldn't do that. I really thought that was going to be the opportunity. Like the last game against Paul Skeens, Skeens did his job. Bullpen kind of fell apart. Tigers made it interesting, ended up losing. But this game, it didn't make it interesting. Just kind of a tough performance. So then I kind of get discouraged again. I'm always trying to find the positive. So in this game, I'll find the positive. Bullpen looked great. Vierling continues to get hits. All right, great. At some point, we got to start stacking up wins, right? So now coming out of the All-Star break, we're down to 1-3 in 4 games, plus the games we lost before the All-Star break. Not looking great. So now we're on to game 2 against the Pirates. I was unable to watch this game live, so I had to catch up a little bit after the fact. And man, this tough game. You think you got Casey Mize coming in, an all-star. Just a couple weeks ago, we were saying, Casey Mize, ERA below 3, 9-2. Then he has a tough start before the all-star game. We think, okay, I'll get that figured out. Not a great performance in the all-star game. Comes out, gets 4 innings, 10 hits, 4 runs. ERA now ballooning up to 3.4. And I say ballooning because just 2 starts ago, it was below 3 and had not been above 3 the whole year. Then we get up to 3.15, now 3.40. Tigers end up losing 8-5. Bullpen comes in. Hanafi does great. And then Carlos Hernandez just has a real tough outing, which is bad timing on my part because I think just the last episode, maybe 2 episodes ago, I was talking about Carlos Hernandez could develop into a dominant stopper for the bullpen. Throws 100 miles an hour, has a splitter. If he can just find the strike zone more effectively, he's got a chance to pair with Will Vest to be another kind of dominant guy. The more that the Tigers pitching staff and Tigers coaching staff is able to work with him. Comes out, just gets a third of an inning, 2 hits, gives up 3 earned runs, just tough outing. ERA's almost 7. But Herder comes in, does great, 2 hits. Holton comes in, gets a third of an inning. Offense, nice, 10 hits, but that's part of it. We were down 8-3 at one point. So what do we have to be happy about? Jake Rogers gets a home run, good for him. Jahmai Jones comes in, gets a home run, that's great to see. Torque gets 3 hits, great game for Torque. Torres gets 3 hits, another great game for our Glaber as well. Defense has 3 errors. So gosh, pitching staff gives up 8 runs. Maybe not all of them earned. I think 7 of the 8 were earned. So not all of the errors accounted for runs. But gosh, another bad outing. So you get a game where the offense finally scores some runs. I think before that game, I saw a stat where since the All-Star game, it showed how many runs each team had scored. And the Tigers only scored 3 runs, easily last place on this thing. So they get 5 runs on Tuesday night, and I think, okay, we're going to score a little bit of runs again. Maybe we'll bounce back from that once we get the pitching under control. So then we get into the Wednesday afternoon game, and I think, all right, we got Troy Melton coming in, getting his debut. We're going to catch lightning in a bottle. This guy's going to come out there and just be a great, great asset to have. We're going to find this new gem that we can pair with our other starters, be in a great position. And it did not start out great. First, gets the first guy out, then McCutcheon comes in, hits a home run. Welcome to the show, kid. Gets out of the first thing, only 1 run. Second inning, gives up a grand slam. It's like, oh, man. But he did figure it out. Yeah, I get it. Jitters, first time through the lineup, first time in professional baseball. There's a lot going on there. But he ended up powering through 5 innings. The last 3 innings were pretty clean. Total 7 hits, 6 runs. He did get 7 strikeouts. Listening to the radio today, Dickerson was talking about how going through that third time through the lineup, he faced 6 of their hitters a third time and struck 4 of them out. Dan Dickerson was saying even a great veteran starting pitcher struggles that third time through the lineup. So for this young kid to come out there and not wither away, not melt, not panic, kept battling, and gets through 5 innings to kind of in a weird way give the team a chance. Leaves the game down 6-0. Chase Lee comes in, another great outing from Chase Lee. I think we're finally over the hump. We had those couple of rocky outings here in July, the month that I wish would go away. But the last 2-3 outings, Chase Lee's been great. 2 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, actually struck out the side. ERA down to 3.31. Carlos Hernandez gets another shot, 1 inning, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. Again, you can tell there's some hope with this team when it comes to Carlos Hernandez. They want him to figure it out because it's not a secret. This guy can be a weapon. What'd the offense do today? Well, 5 hits. What are some highlights? Vierling again, another hit, gets an RBI, the only RBI. So it's a game-winning RBI on Sunday night, only RBI on Tuesday. He hits in 5 of the 6 games. since the All-Star break. So we'll hang our hat on that. Torque, another hit. He got hot the last couple of games, gets the batting average up to 239. I think there's a real chance he hits 240, maybe gets to 250, 30 home runs, 100 RBI. Man, if he gets 250, 30 home runs, and 100 RBI, that's just an out of nowhere season for Spencer Torkelson, considering where he was left for dead after the Gleyber Torres signing. So that's great for him. But fairly anemic, right? The offense gets 5 hits, but none of them really meant anything because it was kind of, by then the game was over. So it's a tough week. Tough start to the week, we'll say. Sunday through Wednesday, team goes 1-4, but they've lost 9 of the last 10. Yeah, they were the first to 60 wins. We'd love for them to be the first to 70 wins and to move on from there. So kind of recapping the week, what do we have to say? Well, other than Veerling, which I wanted to point out with the hits in 5 of the 6 games, Spencer Torkelson, 5 hits, gets his average up. The bullpen, not terrible. 14 and a third innings pitched in the last 4 games. Only gave up 3 runs, and it was all that one outing from Carlos Hernandez. Everything else was clean. Starting pitching, rough week. Because again, the 1 run in Sunday's game goes to Skubal. Holton was pitching when it came in, but it's Skubal's run. So only 3 runs from the bullpen in 14 innings. I'll take that in a vacuum. That's great. So if we can keep the pitching staff doing that, getting better, but then you look at the other side of the coin and say, again, not a lot of these outings were high leverage situations. So these guys are out there when the team's down 6-0, 6-1. There's not as many nerves, not as much pressure. So does the same thing happen if the team's up 4-3 and we bring in Hannafy, up 4-3 and we bring in Chase Lee, up 4-3, we bring in Canely? Are they still shutting the other team down the way they did when our team was losing? That's what we're going to have to figure out. So that kind of recaps the week, right? Tough week. 1-3 on the week, 1-5 since the All-Star break. We're coming home tomorrow. Quick turnaround. Toronto comes in Detroit tomorrow. I'll be there. I'll be there Friday. 4-game home series. Really hoping the home cooking does a body good. So kind of recaps where we've been. After the break, I want to look forward. So what are we going to do? The trade deadline is, a week away, a little over a week away. No real big moves have been made yet, but there's a lot of teams in contention that want their team to make the big move. So what are the Tigers going to do? Is there anything they can do? Is there anything they have to do? That's what we're going to talk about after the break. So you're listening to the Motor City Sports Podcast. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Motor City Sports Podcast with me, your host, Lee Mosierak. So before the break, we recap the Tigers' week. A rough week it's been so far. 1-3 on the week. Not a lot to hang our hat on, except strangely enough, the bullpen pretty good, except for 1 outing. And Tarek Skubal's obviously still a monster. A lot of other things that we're going to have to work through here. But the second half of today's episode, we're not going to talk about the Lions or the Pistons like I usually do. We're going to talk more about the Tigers. So I want to break down what our options are going to be moving forward. Is there hope? What can we do? What do they have to do? Do they have to do anything? Like all those kinds of questions, right? And I decided I want to talk about this because on my drive home from work today, the radio set me off, which usually happens. I try very hard not to listen to this radio station here in Detroit, but I love sports talk radio, right? I'm doing a sports podcast for crying out loud. So I like listening to people talk about sports, especially about our Detroit sports. All right, the radio tuned into this station because I was listening to the Tigers game at lunch, doing some errands, driving around. So I get into the car after work to drive home, and host is just going off about the Tigers. Drives me nuts. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to talk about this. So what are we going to do, right? A week from the trade deadline, what are the options? The way I see the Tigers' positions, the way the players break out is, there's 8 positions on the field. We take away pitcher. I'm not counting DH for this. 4 of those positions, we're very confident, I feel like. Riley Green's our left fielder. Gleyber Torres is our second baseman. Spencer Torkelson is our first baseman. Yeah, he might get a breather here or there, but he's the first baseman. Dylan Dingler's our catcher. Now, obviously, Jake's going to step in when we need him. But those 4 positions, I'm comfortable with. They're solid starters. They deserve to be there. 2 of those 4 were all-stars and very deserved all-stars. Other 2 are great for us. So the other 4 positions are interesting, though. Center field, we've been it was a Javi Baez position. He was an all-star for crying out loud, but that's been a Matt Vierling, Parker Meadows position right now. Neither's looking great. Both had injuries beginning of the year. Both have struggled to come back. So is that a position the Tigers look to upgrade because they're not getting enough production? Now, before I go down this road, I'm the guy that wants our guys to play well enough to where we don't need to trade for anyone. I love this team. I love that image of Matt Vierling sliding home and standing covered in dirt, just cussing and swearing and getting pumped up. That was awesome last year. The robbing of home runs that Parker Meadows was doing last year, just graze in the outfield, love it. So I want those guys to be here. But I'm just saying, center field's obviously been a little bit of a weak spot, especially since Javi moved back to the infield. So that's one position we might look at. Right field, that's been interesting. It was a Kerry Carpenter position, but he's been hurt. He didn't hit as well as I think we had hoped he would. We kind of thought this would be a breakout season for him. He's got some home runs and he still has some great games. Overall, not quite, I think, what we expected. Wenzel Perez is filled in there, which he's done a fine job filling in there. And he was great last year in his games in right field. But has he done enough to say he's the starting right fielder on a World Series championship team? I don't know. Zach McKinstry, jack of all trades, fills in a lot of places. So is that a place for him? But right field's a position where it's a bit of a game of musical chairs. We don't really know who's going to be. Is that a place the team looks to upgrade? Third base, that's the constant, right? We're always talking third base. Zach McKinstry's an all-star third baseman, so I'd love for him to stay there. Colt Keith, phenomenal hitter. He's been getting some reps in at third base. Does that become his position? Javi Baez, he started the year out as a third baseman. Then he went to a center fielder. Then he came back to shortstop. So could he fill in there if we need him? But again, it's not a position where we have one guy that we know is always there. Zach's got the most, but there's the fear that maybe Zach doesn't play as well in the second half. And what are we going to do? I think Zach's great. I really hope that's his position. But that is the other position to think about. And then shortstop. Trey Sweeney, we thought would be the guy there. He gets sent on to Toledo, gets called back because of some injuries. Becomes Javi's position. Played really well. The second, third, like if you think the half of the season before the All-Star break was really almost the first 2/3 of the season. And so half of that, Javi was kind of everywhere and in center field. Second half of that, mostly shortstop, did pretty well, make some flashy plays defensively. But is that a position where the team feels comfortable saying, yes, Javi Baez is our everyday shortstop? I'm not sure. So it's kind of like half the positions, we know who's starting there. The other half, not so sure. We look at the pitchers. Starting pitching, we know Tarek Skubal is a stud. Casey Mize, Jack Flaherty, Reese Olson. I just don't see any of them getting removed from that position. There's been talk that the Tigers need to add another starter. You're going to remove Jack? Like, how bad do Jack's outings have to be for the team to say it makes sense to remove him? You know, we signed him. His incentives kicked in for next year. He's going to be here. And we know he's a good pitcher. So how long did these bad outings have to go before the team says, yeah, we're going to get rid of Jack and bring in somebody else? Or do they not trust Reese because he's so young? Or do they start to not trust Casey? I just feel like starting pitching, while the last week's been rough, starting pitching is a place that we've got enough great starters to complement Tarek Skubal, where it doesn't make sense to trade the farm, literally or figuratively speaking, for another starting pitcher. And then relief pitching has been the constant talk, right? We got Will Vest that we totally trust. And then there's a group of guys that, depending on the outing, can be great. Like Tommy Kahnle was phenomenal for 3 months, not great in July. So do we say, well, 3 months was a joke and the next 3 months are going to be the real Tommy Kahnle? Or do we say the first 3 months were real and it's just a bad month? Let's get out of July and see what happens. Chase Lee, I think we're seeing his turn the other corner, but I think locally, no one takes him seriously because he's thin, he's small, he's young, throws kind of funny. That can't be a serious pitcher. And that's what people say. And so, oh, he can't be the one we're running out there in high leverage situation. And then our H's, Herder, Holton, Hannafy, and Hernandez. Hernandez had the bad outing recently, yes. But they're all doing well enough. So the problem is the fan base doesn't trust them in high leverage situations. Does the club? Does AJ Hinch? Does he trust them enough to not go out and add help? I think they're going to add help. I think they're going to go after a right-handed bat. I think they're going to go after a relief pitcher. But the problem is, like I just said, I named 4 positions that we know are starters, no doubt. The other 4 are kind of up in the air. We know our number 1 starting pitcher. The other 3 we're starting to get a little nervous on. We know our number 1 bullpen guy. The rest we're a little nervous on. So you hear people saying, Tigers got to trade for third baseman. Tigers got to trade for right-handed bat. Tigers got to trade for another middle of the road starting pitcher. Tigers got to add bullpen help. Tigers got to add depth in the outfield. Well, we're not trading for all of them. We're not getting a new relief pitcher, a new starting pitcher, a new third baseman. Hopefully it's a right-handed bat. All of that's not happening. So something else has to happen. I heard that local angry, I shouldn't even say local because he's not local. He's on the local station, but he's not a Michigan guy. He's not from Michigan. He's not a fan of any Detroit sports. So why he gets the premier slot, I'll never understand. Never understand it. Go to New York, talk about the Yankees. In Detroit, let's have people who like Detroit sports, maybe get frustrated with Detroit sports, maybe get bummed out about Detroit sports, but that like Detroit sports. Let's get those folks on our Detroit radio stations. Sorry, tangent. But today he was saying you can't trust anyone but Riley Green and Riley Green and Gleyber Torres. Okay, so what's your solution? Trade for 7 new players or 6 new position players? Trade for 4 new starters? Trade for 4 new relief pitchers? That's not realistic. It's fun to complain. Not for me, it's not. But for a lot of people, it's fun to complain. And it's easy to complain. That's what drives me the most nuts. It's so easy to complain because if you're negative every single time, eventually you're probably going to be right because only one team wins the World Series. The other 29 are done, right? They don't win. So you can be negative, 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 negative all year, and the team can be the first to 30 wins, the first to 40 wins, the first to 50 wins, the first to 60 wins, and be a great team for that long, but they go on a bad stretch. And if you've been negative the whole time, now you get to be right. For a week, you get to be right. For 2 weeks, you get to be right. It's kind of like Stephen A. Smith, always dogging on the Cowboys, which is funny. I'm not a Cowboys fan by any means, but he can dog on them all the time, and they can go 17-0 in the regular season. They can get to the Super Bowl, lose a Super Bowl, and then Stephen A. Smith gets to do that video with this cowboy hat and his cigar and his drink, and he's laughing because they didn't win. Because only one team gets to win. So it takes a lot more guts, takes a lot more courage, bravery to be optimistic and to be positive about a team because you're more likely to be wrong when that happens. It's so easy to say this team's not good. Zach McKinstry's not the player that he looks like. We're falling in love with Zach McKinstry and he's not great. Sure, it's easy to say that because if Zach McKinstry gets to be good, then okay, cool, the team wins, everyone's happy, no one's going to hold your feet to the fire. But if Zach McKinstry falls off, now you get to be the genius. You get to be the angry, nasty, negative guy that's been saying this the whole time. And so they're saying on the radio that only Riley Green and Gleyber Torres can be trusted. I'm sure he also believes Tarek Skubal can be trusted, but he was talking about position players and hitters. But the solution isn't to add 6 new position players, 6 new hitters. So we've got to find a way for the guys that are there to start playing well. And I refuse to believe that 60 games or the first 60 wins, so the first 100 games of the season, was fake, wasn't real. Because the other teams aren't great either right now. Look at the Yankees. Look at the Dodgers. They haven't been great the last 10 either. Okay, the Brewers have gotten hot. The Cubs are looking good. I'm not worried about that. Mizorowski's fun to watch. If we get to the World Series and we're playing the Brewers, I like our chances. We get to the World Series, we're playing the Cubs, we already beat them in a weekend series. So if the Yankees were pulling away and the Yankees and the Dodgers were both pulling away right now, maybe I'd be more nervous. But it's not just the Tigers that are having this weird funk. So we can get out of the funk. One way I think we can get out of the funk is I'm going to just keep pounding. Give me a drum. I'll start pounding the drum. Where is Dylan Smith at? Now, I wish I had like some press credentials so I could get in there and start asking people. I was all over the internet today trying to figure it out, and I'm ashamed to admit I can't figure out where he is. They sent him down to Toledo weeks ago, which I understood. He had just thrown a lot of innings in a short period of time. They couldn't use him. He had options. Sure, option him down. We'll bring him back up when we need him. But if all I'm hearing is we need bullpen help, but again, I just said bullpen's been okay the last week. But that being said, I understand we need bullpen help. Dylan Smith through 7 games, 7 appearances, only gave up 2 runs, an ERA of 1.38. Why aren't we running him out there and giving him a chance? Like, we need something. We need some other kind of stopper, right? So we might have that in-house. So while it's easy to say this team's not good enough when we need a new right-handed bat and we need a third baseman and we need a right fielder, we need another starter, maybe we need a center fielder, maybe we need relief pitching, We're not going to get all that. So where can we fill in those holes? And I say Matt Vierling gets hot, plays well enough, starts in center field. Bring in Parker when we need the wheels. Bring in Parker when maybe we need some defensive replacement. Kerry Carpenter comes back, looks great in right field again. Great, let him hit. Zach McKinstry keeps playing at third base, gets hot again, plays like the all-star third baseman. Casey Mize plays like the all-star pitcher. Jack Flaherty plays like the World Series champ that he was. And we've got guys that, if they play their best, are good enough. That being said, I do think we need a right-handed bat. At the end of last year, people asked me what's the one thing they need? Right-handed bat. I didn't care about the position so much. Like, yeah, sure, we were weak at third base in theory, so the Bregman thing was cute. I was fine with Matt Vierling last year at third base, but we needed another right-handed bat, 2 left-hand dominant. Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Zach McKinstry, too much on the left side. Parker Meadows, too much left side. And none of those, and Zach can hit left-handed pitching pretty well. The rest look real shaky against left-handed pitching. So I understand needing a right-handed bat. So that's fine. But we're not going to replace all those guys. So the guys that are there have to step up. And one more thing I wanted to say about how it's easy to be negative. I'm going to quote my movie Moneyball again. At the end of Moneyball, or near the end of Moneyball, I believe Jonah Hill's character, who was kind of loosely based on a real person, was talking to Brad Pitt as Billy Beane about what a great job he did. And he said, it doesn't matter. If we don't win the whole thing, it doesn't matter. He said, I know these guys. If you don't win it, they're going to be all over you again. And that's what happened in the movie. Oakland Athletics had a great season, lost in the playoffs. All the local sports talk, see, this Moneyball stuff doesn't work. It was a cute little story. There's no way you can win the big one. Again, that's what they're doing locally. It's so easy to be negative because 29 out of 30 times you're going to be right. It's just rolling the dice. So if you want to be right, if you want to increase your odds of being right when the season's over, it's easy to all year complain, to all year say the team's not good enough, to all year say they need to upgrade at positions, because then at the end, if we're not the one team still standing come the end of October, you get to say, told you, not good enough. And if the team happens to win, if we win the World Series, no one's calling that radio station to tell that host he was wrong. Everyone's calling to celebrate the win, so he gets off the hook. And that's what I refuse to do. And that's why when I started this podcast, I said it's going to be positive stuff. It's not going to be negative hot takes. Doesn't mean we're going to be fake. I just spent 30 minutes talking about things that have to improve. Jack Flaherty has to get better. Casey Mize has to pitch like the All-Star. Zach McKinstry has to find his swing again. Parker Meadows or Matt Vierling have to figure it out in the outfield. The bullpen has to be more trustworthy in high leverage situations. I'm not afraid to say that stuff. But it doesn't make any sense to say these guys aren't good. They need to go. Especially doesn't make any sense for people who are not anywhere near the athletes or baseball players that they are to say that stuff. So I just don't get it. I don't get the negativity. Why are we watching sports? Why are we talking about sports if we're just going to complain the entire time? So wrapping this up, Tigers are in a hole. We're home, some home cooking. Got a lot of games. Not a day off. They don't get an off day tomorrow. They don't get an off day Monday. So they play on the Monday, the Thursday, and the Monday. Or usual off days, they don't get any of them off. I think they play like 13 games in 13 days. That's a rough stretch. Not time for a breather. But they had the whole All-Star week to breathe. Didn't matter come last weekend. Still didn't play great. But we're home now. Blue Jays are coming in first place, Toronto Blue Jays. So we can't mess around. We got a 9 game or so lead against Cleveland, I believe, in the division. We don't want to lose that. Let's get it going. Let's get back on fire. Pitching staff dominate. Batters start finding those swings, start driving balls. Stop getting into those two strike counts. I know you like to see pitches, but those 2 strike counts are not fun to hit in. Too stressful. All right, I've rambled on enough about the Tigers. Again, sorry to the Lions and to the Pistons and to the Red Wings and to college football and everything else we didn't touch on today. And I ran way longer than I meant to, so I'm sorry for that. I just got really fired up when I heard that guy on the radio today complaining like he always does. I can't stand it. I had too much to say. But again, thanks everyone for listening. Find us on Instagram, Motor City Sports Podcast. Find me on X/Twitter, Motown Sports Pod. on YouTube, Motor City Sports Podcast, wherever you can find us. Give us 5 stars, give us a subscribe, share it with a friend, trying to get this out to more people so we can get more traction and I can eventually get the interviews that I want to get lined up. But that's going to wrap it up for now. Everyone have a great Thursday. Enjoy a weekend of Tigers baseball. The next episode will be out on Monday morning. Thanks again for listening to the Motor City Sports Podcast.